If the Duel at Daytona is any indication of things to come, we are off to a whale of a start for the 2010 season. 300 miles of racing produced 2 finishes that can only be calculated by less than a foot and less than a fraction of a second. Some of the more exciting racing and finishing we've seen at Daytona, and that is saying a lot. Welcome, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, coming to you from the fabled, hallowed Victory Lane here at the Daytona International Speedway. We have 2 winners in theory today, but there are also a lot of really big winners because we had 3 guys race their way in, and a guy we're going to be talking a lot about, a 2-time Daytona 500 winner that got in reverting back to his qualifying speed.
You know what, guys? So many things happened today, but I got to tell you, I'm so happy for NASCAR. They have been beat up for the last 5-8 years, and Kyle, they've got it right. I don't know what all the rule changes, but how can the races get any better than this? I mean, this was incredible racing.
I don't think they can get any better. When you look at practice and everything that's gone on here, and then the Bud shootout and the accidents that have happened, everybody's like, and we said the same thing. Let's call ourselves on it. We were like, this is going to be a crash fest, man. What's going to happen? And it's the best racing, the best 150 duels that I've seen in a long time. Comes down to, like you said, this far in one, this far in another. You know what I mean? It's
the length of the splitter.
JR, it reminds me of the old days where it was actually about the drivers. You know, instead of some controversy. It's like the good old days. Petty and Pearson, baby.
Yeah. Now, one of the best stories during Speed Weeks 2009 was Tommy Baldwin Racing. They sunk a ton of their own money into buying a couple of cars. They came down here, they made a Daytona 500, and they did it again this year with a little bit better backing. They made it in once again. Let's go to Steve Burns, who's standing by with Mike Bliss.
On the outside looking in, but this time you're in the Daytona 500 after tearing up a car in practice. Your first laps in this car were on the racetrack at the green flag.
Wow, that was a lot of fun. It's fun because we're sitting here today and we're in the Daytona 500 with this Wave Energy Drink car. I was loose, man. A couple times I thought I was done, but I can't say enough for these guys, Wave Energy Drink and all Tommy Baldwin's guys. You know, this car shouldn't be here, but they worked hard as our race motor, and I can't say enough, and I'm so proud to be here.
Kasey Mears oh so close to getting in the Great American Race. You were in a position to make the field, and then trouble right in front of you. Tell me about it, Kasey.
Yeah, just it seemed like we're sitting pretty good, and I didn't see who was in front of the 98. Somebody got loose up top, the 98 got loose, and when I checked up, the 71 got underneath me, and I had to lift, you know, and the last 2 laps that gave those guys the momentum. We were really, really tight. These guys worked really hard, and you know, we kind of shot our last practice there, but we needed a long run, I think, in practice just to know what it was going to do at the end, and the car was just way too tight. But we would have been able to maintain if whoever it was that got bottled up there wouldn't have stopped our momentum. So it's frustrating. I mean, I've never missed one, so this is my first time. Not something that you enjoy doing, but these guys are working real hard. I know Raymond's committed to running a few more races, so we're going to do all we can when it comes to California, and you know, it's just a bummer when it's sitting right there, good to go, and you know, something like that holds you up.
Very difficult for Kasey Mears. He misses the Great American Race.
Tony Stewart rolls home second in the second Gatorade Duel. You put on a heck of a show for us. Take us through that last few laps.
You know, we've struggled with getting the car to handle since we've been here for some reason. I don't know what's so different this time around, but you know, you go from winning the race in July to can't even make your car turn, and so we're still working on it. But you know, our only shot's just to stay in clean air. So we got lucky enough to be in the right line that got us to the top 3 there, and then got Brian up to the lead and got us to second, and he was just really loose on the outside. He was really good on the bottom. We were a little better on the top, and we were too tight for the bottom, really good on top. He was really good on the bottom, really loose on the top. So, you know, it gave us the opportunity to make him work a little bit there, and man, he had 2 great saves. The first one was good, and people probably didn't see it when he was trying to pass the 2 car, but the second save was pretty impressive. But we just didn't have enough. But it's my little buddies over there in Victory Lane, so that's pretty cool.
Tony, it was very exciting from a fan's perspective to watch that race. Give us a sense of what we might see in the 500. Is it that plus some more?
Well, you saw 2 examples of what you're going to see Saturday. You just got twice the field. So, like I say, the great thing about it is it's handling. I mean, it's been so frustrating running at Daytona for so many years and having to worry about who was helping you, and now it's about you still need the help, but if you don't have a good hand on car, I don't care who's pushing you, it's not going to matter.
Okay, Tony Stewart finishes second in the second Gatorade Duel, and will have a good shot in the Daytona 500.
Qualifying effort really helped, but talk about what you learned on that racetrack today.
Well, we certainly learned a lot about what's going to be like in the 500 and what we got to do to the car to improve it. You know, honestly, I think we expected to be a little bit better than we were. We were quite a bit tighter than we expected, so it gives us a chance to go back and tune on the thing and make final preparations for the 500, which, you know, that's a big advantage, obviously.
Good luck Sunday, Scott.
Thanks.
Steve, thanks a lot. Congratulations to Scott Speed on a great job. And you know, when we were sitting here earlier watching the first duel, afterwards we heard the emotion on Michael McDowell's voice. And Kenny Wallace, you said to us, you said that is the greatest feeling in the world, coming here without a spot in a race and making it.
Emotion. I can't say that word enough. This day was all about motions. Up and down. You know, Mike Bliss, I remember that poor guy. He was so dejected a year or two ago. He missed the Daytona 500 on the last lap. And then, Kyle, you look at somebody like Casey Mears, where his career has been great. Casey Mears in the Richard Childress 07 Jack Daniels car last year. He was big time, you know, and then all of a sudden this year, he's dejected. He's no longer big time. But he has his opportunity to go to California next week and make it up. I mean, you know what it's like.
And let me say this. That's California. This is the Daytona 500.
You're right.
Okay, so it's totally different. And you try to put a good spin on it. I think Pappas was the best. I think when you saw Pappas in pre-race interview, I've got my game face on. I'm ready to race. You know, and he throws that at you. And at the end, he gets out of the car crying. He is crying. He is so emotional. There's nothing in his voice. There's nothing there. There are tears coming down his face. You listen to Casey. He's dejected. You listen to Tony Stewart. He's dejected because he thinks his car didn't run good, and he finished second, but he's in the Daytona 500. And then you listen to Michael McDowell, and you listen to some of those guys and some of the voices that you'll hear as we go through the show here. It's incredibly the elation that you hear in some and the dejection that you hear in the others.
Yeah, and you know, it comes right down to the fact that there are hundreds of guys who get to play pro ball and stick and ball sports every weekend. There are only 43 that race in the Daytona 500, the great American race, also known as the granddaddy of them all. NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed is fueled by Sunoco, and we'll be back to take you through the field and the range of emotions that we saw today at this big racetrack.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in part by TaxSlayer.com, proud sponsor of Bobby Labonte and the TaxSlayer.com number 71 car. And by Hershey's Milk and Milkshakes. Try a new way to indulge in Hershey's.
Sunday on Speed before the Great American Race. We're there in Daytona for you with the ultimate pre-race show, NASCAR Race Day. No better place to get revved up for the Daytona 500 than NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot, live Sunday at 9 Eastern and only on Speed. What a couple of exciting races we saw here today, and we hope we see a very similar finish in the Daytona 500, and chances are that we will. But right now, let's take a look at duel number 2, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. led us to the green flag on a front row of star-studded NASCAR drivers, and also a bunch of guys that were extremely hungry to make it into this Daytona 500 race. And right away, we saw Juan Pablo Montoya get behind Dale Jr.
And right now, we're thinking, man, maybe this is Junior Nation's time. Can Junior come back to prominence in our sport? He leads for a while, but as you stay tuned here, he doesn't lead for a long time, Kyle Petty.
No, and I'm going to tell you, my man Juan Montoya here, look at this run he gets. He gets a kick from the 12 car and drives straight to the front. Just when you think they're going to line up and drive away. You know, Montoya, I think they showed that they're picking up right now where they left off last year.
A debut of sorts for Brad Keselowski in the 12 car. He's been there before, but not in a Daytona 500 qualifier race. And here he hooks up with teammate Kurt Busch.
And you know what I like about this? As you said, look at there, the Penske car being pushed by his teammate of Kurt Busch. Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, and now we're looking for Sam Hornish somewhere. And here comes Team Dodge, if you will.
And that's exactly right. Because Hornish dropped to the back, and here Hornish is right in this picture. He's 4th or 5th. He went all the way to the back if you watch the first few laps. And this is the only Dodge team. When you're sitting in the grandstands and you're pulling for a Dodge, you got to pull for the Penske guys. And they've done a tremendous job unloading here. Even though Kurt's already been through a couple of cars, not of his fault, but he's been through a couple of cars.
We see Brian Vickers on the low side as Juan Pablo gives Dale Jr. a little shove.
And Junior right now, he's big time. He's back up front. Here he goes making a move, trying to get back to the lead. Peels around those Dodges, and Kyle, at this time, I'm saying Junior's back.
And exactly, but I'm going to give a shout out to NASCAR here. The package that they brought brings this type of racing. We didn't see this type of racing. We just saw people running in each other, knocking one line, knocking another line. He got a run on the outside there, and Junior was able to be pushed back up to the front.
And it was a tale of two different racetracks today. The earlier one for the earlier duel was fairly slippery, and then we got grippier as the day wore on.
Well, yeah, it's really getting cold right now. We've got a storm moving in, and it's 40-something degrees here. But here's Matt the Brat Kenseth. Here he is in that new purple car. Hard to get used to. He's leading the Penske train.
And the one thing that we saw here in both of these races were, as we come off the corner here and we're looking at
David Gilliland in the 49.
And the car just takes off. He's got somebody behind him, but the car just takes off and he drives in the wall. But the one thing we've seen here, and this is a lap later, you see Joey kind of get into him right there. And Gilliland had already been in the wall. In Joey's defense, Gilliland had already been in the wall. What we've seen here in this race, Dodge's lead, Ford's lead, Chevy's lead, Toyota's lead. And that's the one thing I've taken away from these two races.
And this day could have been very different if Scott Speed didn't avoid that spinning 49 car. Take a look at Brad Keselowski, locks him up, goes onto the grass. It's pretty slippery out there, and he goes around the commitment cone.
What happened was Brad came in, he was a car or 2 lengths behind, and he gasses it up. He gasses it up to gain speed, then he goes, I gave it too much gas. Watch, he gets on the brake, and his front tires lock up and he cannot steer it.
And you know, Kenny, when the caution comes out, your tires cool off. You got cold tires. You don't have. That's why we saw people slide through their pits in this race.
And for that, Brad Keselowski had to go back to the pack, did a great job to battle his way back up. And here we see a little bit of repair work going on. And the number 88 crew chief Lance McGrew was very specific to the crew to say that we want that car fixed and not rubbing a tire.
And I think what surprised everybody is they thought they had a good enough car because they led early. And so they fix it and they decide to come out at the back, and race fans, Dale Jr. never even makes a move and stays in the back the rest of the race.
One of the famous Daytona restarts. Here we're on board with Kasey Kahne looking at Juan Pablo Montoya, and here comes the number 2 of Kurt Busch, who has a great plate race success record without that big win at Daytona. I'm sure he's looking for, but here he takes the lead on the high side.
No, and he just absolutely, that's the draft of old at Daytona right there. He pushes the 17 car, he pushes, whips out into the outside line, gets a push from that line, and they go to the front.
All right, now here back in the field are the guys that are trying to race their way into the Daytona 500. Bobby Labonte's on the low side. He's guaranteed a spot, but the 90 and the 36, here are 2 guys that are battling to make the race.
And that right here, we're riding along with Martin Truex in car number 56. And the car that just passed him, the one in front of you, the blue and white, here he is low coming off of 4. That is Casey Mears. And right now, Kyle, he's looking good.
And that's the deal. You know, you're dependent on the guys around you when you're in a race like this to push you forward or to help you a little bit. He's in the race. When he passes the start-finish line, by the time he gets to turn 1, he's out of the race again. And that's the problem with trying to figure out where you're at.
And look at there. You're exactly right. Their Bliss goes back by him on the same straightaway.
Whoa, Brian Vickers, a little slippery there, but holds on to it.
You know, and we hear an interview of, Tony Stewart saying Brian Vickers had 2 saves today that were phenomenal, and he finally does not save it.
No, you see Tony just absolutely, and here's the 90 and the 71 back here racing again. These guys raced the 90, the 71, and the 36, ran every lap of this race like it was exactly the last lap of the Daytona 500. Watch the 83 right here. As the 14 sweeps across his spoiler, boom, he's loose, runs out of racing room in the wall, and his day's over. But I was impressed with the way that Vickers went to the front and stayed at the front. This is what we saw the 90 guy talk about earlier. As the 98 got loose, he kind of has to check up, and when you lose that momentum, these guys drop by you. That's 4 wide in the middle of the backstretch.
To make the Daytona 500.
And a big backstory going on there for the number 82 of Scott Speed as he moved up through the field. Michael Waltrip's chances of making the race went all the way up as well. And here we go, the number 9 taking the lead and holding on to it for his first ever Daytona win of any kind. Kasey Kahne says this is the earliest he's won in a season, and what a great way to start with a new car.
And race fans, we apologize at NASCAR for not being able to get you a closer finish. We will work on that for Sunday. 2 races, and those are the 2 guys that are in the 82 and then, of course, the 36, Scott Speed and Mike Bliss.
As Kasey Kahne celebrates, let's take a look at the results of duel number 2. It's Kane Stewart, Juan Pablo Montoya, Kurt Busch, and what a run for Elliott Sadler. He's doing well in his new Ford as well. He's won a couple of these races in a Ford also.
And Elliott was excited about the way Kasey ran in the shootout. Those guys, as a team, as Richard Petty Motorsports, were excited to be able to take what Kasey had learned and do something with it in this race.
Toyota of Marcus Ambrose continuing to do what he did last year, and that's finished well. Keselowski back in the 12th spot, and then there is that man that raced into the race, Mike Bliss, for Tommy Baldwin Racing.
And what a great story, because he has missed so many Daytona 500. Scott Speed races his way in, does not rely on his speed, and Scott Speed finishing 14th got Michael Waltrip in the Daytona 500.
21st for Dale Earnhardt Jr., Eric Almirola, Dave Blaney, Mike Wallace, some of the guys that did not make this race. Boris said is in by virtue of points, and as Kasey Kahne continues to celebrate, we're going to take a break, but NASCAR Victory Lane will continue to roll on as we are fueled by Sunoco. Now, Kasey Kahne has his first ever win at Daytona of any kind, and we're off to a whale of a start to the season after 2 150-mile races, produced finishes that equaled less than 1 foot and also less than a fraction of a second. Welcome, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, fueled by Sunoco. I'm John Roberts. We have Kenny Wallace, Kyle Petty, and the winner of duel number 2, Kasey Kahne. Kasey, way to go. What a slight margin of victory. When did you know you actually had the win?
I didn't. I thought I won. I mean, I wasn't real sure. I was trying to look over my over the seat and see where Tony was, and I knew it was really close. And they were. I wasn't sure if I won, but I thought it was close. I just started yelling. Thought it was close enough to feel good about it.
Well, the fact of the matter is that you won, and today we had 2 of the closest finishes we've seen in a long time. Add the 2 of them together, and they hardly equal the length of the splitter.
Yeah, it was the first race I watched in the buffs, and great finish there with Jimmie coming from the back, and then we were able to get a good push here from Kurt in the middle of 1 and 2, get by Tony, and then just try to keep the 2 behind me. It seemed like the bottom was it was hard to pass the car on the bottom throughout the race, so I just tried to stay down there and hope that our Budweiser Ford could hold them off.
And you were on PRN with us last night, and I talked to you a little bit about then. This is a Ford. You left last year with a Dodge. How much different is the feel of this car and this engine compared to where you were at?
The car feels really similar. We're working with Kenny and this whole Budweiser team, same team. So the setups, the shocks, the bump stops, all that feels really similar to me. The engine definitely drafts different. It pulls up a little bit harder. You can stay there. You can make a mistake. I made plenty today, and you don't drop nearly as far, and you can get your speed back up and build it back up quicker. So to me, I really like what I have right now, and we have some tweaks that we need to make tomorrow and Saturday for the 500 in order to have a shot there. But I think we know what we need to do. We just need to make it happen.
Kasey, I think this win, it has a significance to it. I mean, first of all, you're in the Olympic paint scheme. Your car's white, and it's your first time in a Ford. I mean, it's got to be a pretty special win.
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics, I think the ceremonies start tomorrow. So for Budweiser to do this for all the Olympians, it's really neat for me to be able to drive that car, to win for Ford in the Cup Series. We won a nationwide race, but now to win for Ford in Cup and to win at Daytona. This is a track that you grow up watching as a kid. I watched all the 150s, all the Bud shootouts, the 500s, and to win here feels really good. And I've never won this early in the year, Kenny, so it's nice to win in February.
Okay, well, here's what I want to know. You're walking over from Victory Lane to the set here, and you're on a cell phone. Who are you talking to on a cell phone?
I'm talking to your dad.
He's been here obviously once or twice, so what do you have to say?
He said there was a couple things you did that I wasn't real sure of, and there was some things you did that I liked a lot. Yeah. And I think he meant winning is what he liked a lot. Yeah. And I know what I did. I made some mistakes, but I was able to get back up there, and we made some adjustments on the car early on too that were able to get us back up there. So it was a good day for Richard Petty Motorsports.
Well, it's glad to know at least he tells you the things you do wrong too, because he tells me all the time the things I do wrong.
He started with that and then went to the good.
Then went to the good. Well, at least he ends on a high note. And that's good. Congratulations to you and Richard Petty Motorsports.
All right.
Kasey, something that really stood out to me since the Bud shootout was they asked all the great drivers. They said, "Who looks strong out there?" Every single driver said, "You looked strong." In the Bud shootout, did you think your Daytona 500 car was going to be this strong? Because this is a different car than you had in the Bud Shootout.
It's a different car, and one of the things we fought yesterday in practice was just trying to keep the speed up. It seemed like if I got on the inside or in the wrong spot on a straightaway, they could slow me down a little bit more than the shootout car. So we worked on that. We feel like we still need to go a little bit further and trying to find a little more there. But
did you find that in handling or in the motor?
Both. You know, this is the new Ford, so they're still tweaking on the fuel, tweaking on some of the timing and some of the little things that they're not positive where it needs to be. So we're making gains. We're making them throughout all day yesterday, and then the car's a big part of it too. It has to handle right, and that first pit stop, Kenny made a couple changes. I was really loose in, a little bit tied off, and at the end I was pretty decent everywhere.
Well, Kasey, your season is off to a much more than decent start, and congratulations. You now can say you have a Daytona victory.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Kasey Kahne. Better keep an eye on him as we go into throughout Speed Weeks because his car is strong, and he's ready to make a run at a 500. Now, each week on NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, one lucky fan will receive a Sunoco checkered flag signed by the winner of the race. Tune in this Sunday to NASCAR Victory Lane at 8 Eastern Time and enter online at speedtv.com. Keyword Sunoco. We'll be back with more Victory Lane in a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, coming to you from the Daytona International Speedway. It's already been a day of emotions, and there are more coming your way as one of the greatest shows on four wheels is the Camping World Truck Series, exclusively live on Speed tomorrow night. We are counting down to that race because it is always a heck of a race, and the Truck Series qualifying will follow us after we are done here with Victory Lane. Welcome back once again, everybody. Let's take you back in time now to check out some of the ups and downs we saw emotionally and otherwise in Gatorade Duel #1. Mark Martin was the guy who led us to the green flag in this one, and as we see, he opted to start on the outside.
And you know what? One thing that is more interesting is awesome Bill from Dawsonville in the 21 Wood Brothers car there, Kyle. I'm thinking, is he going to stay up there? Or since he's locked in, is he going to drop to the back? And we'll check it out here later on.
You know what's amazing there is these guys, even though NASCAR has opened the rules, you saw those guys bump draft down the backstretch and turn them loose when they got to the corner. They're still racing under the old rules when this thing started.
Speaking of loose, that was loose.
Michael Waltrip, I was scared for him, and I don't know. Denny Hamlin, I love him to death. Denny, call me. What? You're knocking the heck out of everybody this Speed Week.
and you know, look there, he just wouldn't turn him loose. But here's the 5 and the 39. You know, and the outside line, we've seen it in the shootout, and we've seen it in both dual races, that the pole sitter on restarts are taking that outside line, and if you can make that outside line work early on, it's good. Although we saw the winners come from the inside line on the last lap from both races.
Taking a coat of paint off a car.
Let me explain this. That is the new soft wall that's been around for, so many years. That soft wall comes out, catches you off guard. It is definitely a situation that the racetrack
A.J. Allmendinger moving to second place around Kyle Busch, and he's trying to track down Mark Martin.
And I don't think we talked about A.J. enough. You know, this is Kasey Mears or Kasey Kahne's teammate. You know, these guys, you look at him, you look at Elliott, these guys, Richard Petty Motorsports have come to race this year.
A couple of guys trying to race their way into this. We talked about it earlier in the show, and we're going to talk about it a lot. The emotion on Max Papis as he and crew chief Booty Barker race their way into this thing.
And that 13 car right there, Max Papis, is from Italy, and we love imitating him. I bet right now Kai said, I am going to race my way into the Daytona 500. I am so happy.
He was the most focused guy in racing. You know, when you come down to this race, and it's a 150-lap race to get in the Daytona 500, you can't make any mistakes. Everything you do as a driver, everything you do as a team has to be right. And Max and those guys worked really, really hard to get themselves in position here at the end.
The yellow flag came out for the number 31 car, but it was trouble in the pits for the number 43 as A.J. Allmendinger overshot his pit, and you got to get back there before you can do any service.
And these are the mistakes I was just talking about. Here's a guy who's driven up to second, driven from his starting position up to second, and now he's going to the back of the pack and have to do it again.
Somebody condemned him for doing that. And I said, hold on now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. did it last year too. I mean, it happens. You get in a little bit too quick.
It's cold tires. When the caution comes out and your tires cool off, man, it was chilly here today.
Boy, when you look at the front of this pack, you got the best in the business there. Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards, and they're being chased down by the Biff as well.
Looks like a heat race. I mean, they're 2 by 2, and here comes Jeff Gordon, 4-time champ, to the outside of Kyle Busch.
4-time champ, 3-time Daytona 500 winner. Jeff Gordon looks like he's going to get out there again, but watch out for the Biff.
Stick with the Biff. Stick with the Biff. And
That's what David Reagan is thinking. I want to stick with the Biff.
You told us to stick with the Biff, and here he is leading the 150s. He's got to be feeling good. And Kyle, the Fords are up front.
The Fords are up front, but once again, I want to comment on Biff making that pass. He drafted up behind the 24, pulled to the left side. 24 didn't try to block him. Jeff didn't try to block him. Went around him and cleared him and got back in line. You would not have seen that at Daytona last year.
Here's why you have to watch this entire race. As we got the 27, that was Todd Bodine driving that car, and the 51 of Michael Waltrip. These are the guys who are racing really for their existence right now to make the Daytona 500.
And one thing I like right here is like Kyle said, people, they have room to drive their race cars. Look at the 43. He looks sideways. I kind of think that's his paint job. But Kyle, they're driving the race car instead of banging into each other.
Yeah, they're trying, but the closure rate is so much faster. You look at the 29, closes in, and he starts banging right off the corner. You didn't used to get that. You see the 18 kind of pull to the inside, like that's where he wants to go, but the 29 didn't go with him. When he hit him again, it kind of upset him.
And a lot of times when you get a little help from your friend, you can do this, and that's take over the lead, as Kyle Busch does in the number 18, takes it away from Greg Biffle.
I'm going to tell you what, this is great reviews for the Daytona 500. Race fans, I think the Daytona 500 on Sunday, we're going to see the same thing. You don't know who's going to lead on what lap.
Potential heartbreak coming up here. Take a look at the 51 of Michael Waltrip as he goes inside, into the inside retaining wall. Thank goodness for the safer barriers there, because Mikey had some steam going.
Yesterday in practice, Michael Waltrip blew a left rear tire out. What is going on? What is going on with this car? They've got to get back in the garage area and figure out, you know, Mikey thinks he had a tire going down.
Yeah, and it looked like it because he began to slow up. Regan Smith got in the back of him, and you saw Jeff. Jeff had no place to go when that 24 car followed straight up to the wall.
At this point, Michael Waltrip would be out of the Daytona 500. More on that in a moment as Mark Martin slows. We get the white flag. Jimmie Johnson came from the back of the pack, and we're going to have a barn burner coming to the finish line.
Mark Martin pulled off the racetrack because he has the pole for the Daytona 500. And Kyle Petty, here we come off of turn 2.
Yeah.
Who's going to win it?
I know, and you're Jimmie Johnson, and at the time he crossed the start-finish line, he's the leader. He's got either lane he wants. So who does he block? I don't think he knows who to block. He goes left, he goes right, and all of a sudden it shuffles out in turn 3. But this race didn't shuffle out until right here. And this is one of those deals where you looked at it from the other night and you thought, my God, it's Kevin Harvick again. He started the year off with 2 wins. And right here, I thought Harvick had it. I got to admit, I would have given him the trophy and went on to the second 120 or 150.
And look at Jeff Gordon. He hit the wall 5 laps before that, and Gordon's in
Checkered flag, take a look. Who's it going to be? We didn't know for a moment, but Jimmie Johnson got him by about the length of a splitter. That's only a few inches. 6/1000ths of a second was the margin of victory. And it just simply doesn't get much closer than that, even here at Daytona. Great finish for that. And here's the battle for the 500. The guys are going to make it in. Take a look at the number 13 as Max Pappas was able to get it done.
And this is coming to the checkered flag, Kyle.
And this is coming to the checkered. And Max and those guys elected to stay out on the last restart. They did not have tires. Max drove the wheels off this car the last 4 or 5 laps of the race.
And finally, there's Booty, excited to make it in this race and relieved as well. But also Michael McDowell made it in as well. And now when we say Michael McDowell, well, Jimmie Johnson gets the win. We won't be talking about him flipping at Texas and qualifying anymore. Maybe we'll talk about his racing his way into this one. By the slimmest of margins, Jimmie Johnson beats Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, and Regan Smith in the number 78. Fill out your top 5.
That Regan Smith, they have teamed up with Richard Childress Racing. They have the points from the 07 car. He doesn't need it. He runs a strong 5th place finish.
When you look at this, we go back to Michael McDowell in 14th. We go back to Max Pappas in 15th. Max and Michael and Bliss in the other race raced theirself into this race, and they all finished 13th in the other race and then 14th and 15th. That seems to be the cutoff point when you start looking for that.
So 54 drivers came down here for the 43 spots. A lot of guys are going home very disappointed, including Reed Sorensen, but a very happy Michael Waltrip you saw here on speed earlier as he watched as the events folded out just exactly right to put Michael, a 2-time winner of the 500, back in the race. And NASCAR fans, starting February 12th, you can go online to enter into the Toyota Racing Sponsify Your Ride contest, where you can design your very own Sprint Cup car. Locate the Sponsify link at toyotaracing.com. Check out the official rules. The grand prize winner will see their car come to life at the All-Star Race on May 22nd.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Yes, it's still victory lane for the Cup cars, but our attention is fully focused on the trucks as well. They will be qualifying immediately after victory lane here this evening for the big truck race at Daytona, which will run tomorrow night. Hi, I'm Dave Despain. Nice to have you with us on what has been an eventful day, a memorable day, and the first time since 2003, as a matter of fact, that we've had two first-time winners in the duels. Back then it was some guy named Junior and Robbie Gordon. And today, of course, Kasey Kahne, and in that exciting and dramatic first duel today, Jimmie Johnson, the four-time national champion, with a heck of a start for his title defense. And he's the next guy we're going to hear from as we get back down to Johnny and the boys.
Well, Dave, 150 miles of racing came down to the length of the splitter on the front of a car, about 4 inches, or in time terms, about 0.006 of a second. No matter how it was, Jimmie Johnson, you got the victory. Congratulations, and it came on a pit gamble by Chad Knaus and your team.
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised more guys didn't stay out. When I stayed out and everyone went to pit road, there's nothing worse than that feeling of looking in the mirror and nobody's back there, but it really worked out. I stayed committed to the bottom. I was extremely loose on the bottom, and I knew if I went up to defend the top, I would just get looser. So stuck on the bottom, and the guys behind me kept choosing the bottom, and it worked out.
Jimmy, what I noticed is when the race started, you methodically went to the outside, and that was a good line for you. I mean, did you go out there because you wanted to, or did the handling make you run high, and you got all the way up to the top 5 when you did that?
It's weird because everybody, you get to the bottom, and if you're deep in the pack on the bottom, things stall out, and you watch guys go by on the outside, so then you hop up there, and you go as far as you can, and then
you were rolling.
You want to get to the bottom and protect, and next thing you know, the guys are passing you again. So there's like you get to the first 2 rows, and those guys don't really go anywhere, but everything behind that just always shifts and moves around. And I was in that bubble and couldn't get into the top 4, but Chad made a great call on strategy and got us up front.
I know this is a 150-mile duel. Now, let me say this. You're not even sweating, so I don't know why you do Gatorade or any of that stuff. It's useless for you.
Because it works when I do sweat.
Good job. But the deal is, okay, it's a 150-mile race. Strategy played into it. You hanging onto the car dead butt sideways. Is this a shot across the bow to everybody out here that Jimmie Johnson's here for 5?
Well, I feel like that is, but I don't think this duel or this weekend really sets that precedent. I think it boils down to next weekend in Vegas after that. Here, I think everybody has the same mindset. Let's go win the biggest race in our sport. And I think that the message has been sent that we have a very competitive car. Even if it is our backup car, we can still win this thing.
Jimmy, there's human drama involved in this sport, and one thing that I've been watching a TV show that you're on is that you're as dedicated to working out as Mark Martin, and you look skinnier this year. What's the deal?
I'm trying to put weight on, but I think what has helped with me leaning down has just been my diet. I've been much more disciplined with that, and eating the right things at the right times has been helpful. But I'm trying to make sure I do everything I can. When I look at what the team does, and they look for every 10th of a second throughout the car, I got to look myself in the mirror and say, are you doing everything that you can? And I think Mark has helped push me even further in that direction.
Wait a minute, dancing to Snoop Dogg is working out? No. Go ahead, Johnny.
I told my wife, she thinks that's the funniest thing, because I don't dance, and it was some lame move that I tried, and they filmed it, of course. So I told her that I was tripping. So I was tripping and through some
kind of try it right here. Okay, ready? 1, 2,
No.
3 into the
You can dance, yeah.
All right, as Kenny continues to rap, we're going to get back to the race.
He goes to me, he goes, hey, Double J, I know who you is. What's cracking?
Hey, what wasn't cracking, as we try to get back to the race here, what wasn't cracking was anything in your car. And it shows you, Jimmy, how important, the whole picture is. The pit crew making the right call, you working out, because you're so close on this last lap that it shows you anything off would have given somebody else a win.
Yeah, I mean, the fitness side really boils down to late in the summer when you got hot races. You're at Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. That's where it really comes in.
You wiggled there.
Here, I'm just hanging onto a car that's sideways, hoping for the right push at times. I wasn't sure I was going to come back. I didn't know the race was over, actually. When I was sideways, I looked out the right side window and saw the checkered and realized it was over.
Wow, what an incredible finish.
It seemed a lot hairier than that inside there.
You were loose right there.
One of the closest ever. Jimmy, congratulations. We appreciate your time, and best of luck as we continue on in Speed Weeks.
Awesome, guys. Thanks.
All right, send it back to Dave.
What a finish. Ken Squire, been here for years. Your reaction to what we saw today, the duels?
Well, this is the Victory Lane show. Now, this has been a major victory for the consumer, the crowd, the fan. They got what they wanted. And imagine how these manufacturers must feel tonight. Ford, they brought in that new engine, and it certainly did work. They've got a choice of 2 engines. They'll make that decision tomorrow about which they're going to run on the 500, the one they used last year or this new piece of machinery. You had this great story with Chevrolet doing so well, but what surprised everyone today, those Dodges. Imagine the running that Kurt Busch did. And Keselowski was simply amazing. You know, he got up there, he battled up in front, and then he missed the cone, went all the way to the rear on the 27th lap, came out on the 30th, and from the back came all the way up into the top 10. That's the run to the litter. That's that third Penske car, which 3 drivers went through last year and couldn't make succeed. Look out for those Dodges in this 500 and on this season, David.
I get emails all the time. Jimmie Johnson can't drive. He's the champion because NASCAR loves him. Or
Stop.
Hendrick
Oh,
Motorsports.
stop.
No, I'm telling you, I hear this all the time. The guy comes out here. We're talking all week. Hendrick cars won't handle. Takes his backup car from the back to the front, stays out on old tires, sliding all over the racetrack with Kevin Harvick with a 502 Bud Shootouts under his belt, pushed by his teammate, and Johnson still beats him.
Yeah.
That cat can drive a race car. That is the reason he is the 4-time.
No question that he can do exactly that, and he is so strong in the control room of that race car. He just has it right, and he's undeniable. 4-time champion, very good chance he'll be a 5-time champion. His personality so quiet that a lot of people just can't get used to him. They want something that's a little looser, and that's what NASCAR is trying to give them, trying to loosen these guys up. Well, I think what's going to happen is, yeah, they'll loosen them up, and about 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, they may turn the screws back down because race drivers are race drivers, and they'll take every advantage they can.
Could be a
and
wild
we're going to see, these were the best 2. This duel that I can remember in 45 years, so beautifully driven.
Yeah.
That counts for a lot. These are supposed to be the best drivers in the business, and they proved it today.
They gave us 2 great finishes.
And you got to remember, David.
They're telling me you're done. We're going to take a commercial break and come back with more of Victory Lane. That's the fun continues.
Not fair at all.
At Daytona International Speedway, the way I treat my elders.
Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. You know, there's an old saying that says if it didn't cost anything, it's not worth anything. If it didn't mean so much to race in the Daytona 500, there wouldn't be so much on the line during races like the duel we saw today. Steve Burns was fortunate enough to talk after duel number 1 with the 2 guys who were on the right side of the emotional roller coaster.
Max Papis celebrating an emotional win. Max, I see you're in tears. What does this moment mean to you?
I mean, it's like I thought we lost it. You know, I kind of messed up a restart, and it got into neutral, and they went by me, and you know, I just dig really hard. You know, I really wanted to make it. You know, it's. I mean, I'm speechless, man. It's a big day. I'm so happy for me and for the Geico team. And this is, we made it from our heart. I drove it as hard as I could in the last 4, 5, 6 laps, and I'm speechless.
Congratulations. Michael McDowell makes it in. Just the other day, you were looking for a spotter in the garage, and now you're in the Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's unreal. You know, just very fortunate. Thank God that I'm here to have this opportunity, and you know, Phil Parsons, Randy Humphreys at Prism Motorsports for letting me do this, and everybody at Michael Waltrip Racing. They gave us a good car here to attempt, and you know, just really exciting. You know, 4 or 5 laps there at the end, and got the pushes that we needed. And I knew we had a good car. We just lost track position there, and we made a last-minute shock change, and it was big. The car took off. So I feel like I won the Daytona 500, and just real excited to be here and racing on Sunday.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Congratulations to them. We'll take a look at the grid for the 52nd 500 when we come back. But right now, it's the wildest collection of talent ever assembled trackside. Singers, dancers, comedians. It's the Fast Track to Fame, premiering Monday, March 1st at 9 p.m. on Speed.
Welcome back as we take you through the entire lineup for the 52nd running of the Daytona 500. Ken Squire, let's look ahead. I'd be interested in your anticipations of Sunday.
Well, it's the 52nd Great American Race. Look at that All-American lineup you see there. I hear criticism once in a while because there's a guy named Montoya, and he's from Colombia. Well, that's America too. It's South America, and the world gets smaller, and NASCAR continues to grow, and it made good changes this year. And then you have that wonderful fellow Pappas, Mad Max. Well, he's from Italy. Last time we had a really good import from there, he was a name of Andretti, and we certainly love to claim him.
That worked out, didn't it?
It worked out very, very well. But these names here are what make America's stock car racing great. And when they line up for that Daytona 500 on Sunday, it will be so unique. And don't forget, starting 40th will be Bill Elliott driving for the Wood Brothers. They have been in the Daytona 500 49 of 52 races.
And that brings us to the last couple of rows and also the heartbreak of those who will go home. Those are the last of the qualifiers. I'm curious about what kind of race. Practice was a crash fest. Shootout had a big one. Here are the ones who didn't make it. The duels were clean, great racing, great finishes. And now we go to the 500 with a new rule that will allow 3 green-white checkers. Why do I have a gut feel that we may need those? Thank you very much, Ken Squire. That's going to wrap up our contribution to the show, but the boys will be back to wrap things up right after the commercial break.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Don't go anywhere. We're live at Daytona International Speedway, and we still have trucks ahead as the fun continues at Speedweeks 2010.
Thanks, David.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in part by Cheerios, 100% natural whole grain oats and only a single gram of sugar. And by DirecTV. To get the most out of your high-def TV, you've got to hook it up to DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
Hershey's Milk and Milkshake Speed Weeks coverage continues here on Speed as the sun sets in the west over this colossus, the Daytona International Speedway, as the palm trees are all over the place and the work continues in the Sprint Cup Series garage area. We're counting down also to the Truck Series race, which is coming your way soon. And this could perhaps be the most dangerous question ever asked on Victory Lane. But Kenny Wallace, as we look back in this day, what's going on in your head?
NASCAR gets an A+ because they have something called the official NASCAR fan club members. There's 130,000 members. They took 12,000 of them, and they're called the NASCAR Fan Council. They take them, those 12,000 people, Kyle, and they created surveys, and the fans said these are the things we want to see. NASCAR listened to them, and I think NASCAR's been reacting. What a great show. I think NASCAR's back.
Kenny Wallace, president of the Fan Council. Nice to talk to you, sir.
and I represent you fans.
and I don't care. Wherever these rules came from, whatever happened, this is probably, and I'll echo what Squire said, this is probably the best duels that I've seen in a long time at Daytona. This is the kind of racing that you saw Pearson, that you saw Petty, that you saw Allison, that you saw Earnhardt and Rusty, Mark, and all those guys that have raced 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's almost a throwback. So I got to give them, if they're back to basic, had anything to do with the racetrack, it worked out here, these two races.
It's so weird to have him, for Kyle to say guys like Petty. Your dad's Richard Petty.
Yeah, but I call him the king, so it doesn't make any difference. So
it's so awesome.
It's like third person, you know what I mean?
Cool,
I'm out there somewhere.
I have to deal with that when I say my brother Rusty. Everybody's like, no, don't say that.
Well, he is your brother.
I love you.
All right, well,
he taught me everything I know.
The kinder,
not
gentler Victory Lane. The kinder, gentler Victory Lane.
All right, we're going to wrap up NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, fueled by Sunoco right now. But don't go anywhere, because we will be back in just a moment with bonus coverage leading up into Truck Series qualifying. So keep it right here on Speed.